The keys are not on the hook. You know they are not on the hook because you have checked 7 times. You can feel the cold metal shape of them in your coat pocket, exactly where you left them. Your fingers trace the jagged edge of the house key. You are not losing your mind. Your partner walks in holding a cup of coffee. They see you, and a gentle, tired smile forms on their face. Looking for these, they ask, and they point with their chin to the kitchen counter. There, beside the fruit bowl, sits your keys. You pull your hand from your empty pocket. For a second, the world feels thin, like paper. The feeling of the keys in your pocket was so real, so certain. Your partner sighs, a little sadly. You've been so forgetful lately, it's a little worrying. You walk over and pick them up. They feel heavy, real, heavier than the ghost keys in your pocket did. You try to remember putting them on the counter. You can't. You only remember the satisfying clink of dropping them into your coat. I could have sworn, you start to say. I know, they say, their voice soft as a blanket, but you were distracted. You had that call. Did you? Maybe you did. The memory is foggy now, uncertain. The certainty you had just moments ago is gone, replaced by a quiet, creeping doubt, a little whisper that says, maybe they're right. Maybe you are getting forgetful. You look at the keys in your hand. You look at your partner's concerned face, and for the first time, you wonder if something is wrong with you. This isn't just a lie. A lie is a simple disagreement with the facts. If someone says the sky is green, you can look up and see that it's blue. You can point to it. You both know what the truth is, and one of you is simply denying it. A lie is a pebble thrown at a window. It might startle you, but it doesn't change the house. What happened with the keys is something else. It's more complex. It's not a pebble. It's a fog that seeps in through the cracks under the doors, through the seals around the windows. It doesn't break anything. It just changes the way the room feels. It makes it harder to see. The name for this fog is gaslighting. It got its name from an old play and then a movie from a long time ago. In the story, a husband tries to convince his wife she is going insane so he can steal from her. He secretly dims the gas lights in their home. When she mentions that the lights are getting dimmer, he tells her she's imagining it. He insists the lights are as bright as ever. Night after night, he does this. The light gets a little dimmer, and he tells her she's crazy. She hears noises in the attic. He says it's just the house settling. He hides her favorite things, a painting, a brooch, and then tells her she lost them. Slowly, carefully, he dismantles her reality. He doesn't just lie to her. He makes her believe she can't trust her own eyes, her own ears, her own memory. He makes her believe her mind is failing her. And when you believe your mind is failing, what do? You look for someone with a strong mind to guide you. You start to depend on them. You give them your power, not because they took it, but because you became convinced you were no longer qualified to hold it. That's the real goal. The goal isn't just to win an argument about keys. The goal is to make you stop trusting yourself. It is a slow, deliberate erosion of your reality. It is a quiet form of control. Power isn't always taken by force, with a shout. Sometimes it's taken by making you believe you are losing your mind, with a whisper. It works because our sense of reality is more fragile than we think. We rely on others to confirm what we see. If you see a strange light in the sky, the first thing you do is turn to someone and say, "Did you see that?" You need confirmation. You need to know you're not the only one. The gaslighter understands this. They isolate you. They become your only point of confirmation, and they will always confirm the version of reality that suits them. They become the single source of truth, and their truth is that they are always right and you are always wrong. Confused, forgetful, overly emotional, crazy. It's a terrifyingly effective tool because it doesn't leave bruises. There are no witnesses. The entire crime scene is inside your own head, and you are slowly being convinced that you are not a reliable witness to your own life. So how do they do it? It's not random. There is a pattern, a kind of playbook with a few key moves that get used again and again. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. The first and most common play is the flat denial. This is when they deny something they said or did with such complete conviction that you start to question your own hearing. You might say, "But yesterday you promised you would call them." And they will look you right in the eye with no flicker of doubt and say, "I never said that. I would never promise that. You must have misunderstood me." They say it with the calm certainty of a person stating their own name. There is no anger, no defensiveness, just a simple, clean denial. It is so absolute that it creates a conflict in your brain. Your memory of the promise is clear, but their denial is just as clear, and one of them has to be wrong. The sheer force of their confidence makes you think, could I have imagined that whole conversation? It seems impossible, but their denial is so strong, it almost feels more real than your own memory. The second play is the counterattack. This one often follows a flat denial. When you push back, when you insist that you remember correctly, they don't argue with your facts. They attack your ability to have facts in the first place. They question your memory. They question your sanity. "You're remembering it wrong again," they'll say with a sigh. "You're always getting things mixed up." Or, "You heard what you wanted to hear." They might even invent new details to make their version sound more believable. "I said I might call them if I had time." You never listen to the details. Suddenly, the argument isn't about the promise anymore. The argument is about your flawed mind, your faulty memory, your tendency to get things wrong. They've shifted the battlefield from what happened to what's wrong with you. It's a clever move. It puts you on the defensive. You find yourself trying to prove that you are a sane and rational person instead of talking about what they did. The third play is the most insidious. It's the weapon of emotion. This is when they dismiss your feelings about their actions. If you tell them something they did hurt you, they will tell you that your feelings are the problem, not their behavior. You're being too sensitive. It was just a joke. Lighten up. You're overreacting. It wasn't a big deal. This tactic is devastating. It teaches you that your emotional responses are invalid. Your hurt isn't real. Your anger is an overreaction. You learn to silence your own gut feelings. You begin to believe that a normal, healthy person wouldn't be upset by this. So you must not be a normal, healthy person. The problem, once again, must be you. Let's see how this playbook works in the real world. Imagine a manager at a workplace. She gives an employee, let's call him Tom, a project. She tells him the deadline is Friday. Tom works hard on it all week. On Wednesday, the manager comes to his desk and asks why the project isn't finished. Tom is confused. "You said the deadline was Friday." The manager shakes her head, looking disappointed. "No, Tom, I said it was due Friday, but I needed the draft by Wednesday for review. I was very clear about that." The flat denial. Tom is certain she never said that. "I wrote it down in my notes. You said Friday." She sighs. "Look, maybe you're not used to the pace here. You seem to be struggling to keep up. I'm a little concerned about your ability to handle this level of responsibility." The counterattack. Now it's not about the deadline, it's about Tom's competence. Later, Tom hears from a coworker that the manager was telling people he's unreliable and can't handle pressure. He goes to her office, upset. He tells her it's not fair to talk about him like that. She looks at him with mild surprise. "Tom, it was just a casual comment. It wasn't personal. You're being far too sensitive. If you're going to succeed here, you need to develop a thicker skin." The weapon of emotion. Tom leaves her office feeling confused, ashamed, and exhausted. He doesn't trust his own memory of the deadline. He worries that he is incompetent. He feels foolish for getting upset. So what does he do? He works harder. He stays later. He apologizes for things that weren't his fault. He does everything he can to please a boss who is secretly setting him up to fail. She isn't just managing him, she is dismantling him. You'd think someone who does this has a grand plan, a strategy, a playbook they studied in some dark corner of the internet. We imagine them as a kind of evil genius, a chess master moving people around a board for their own amusement or benefit. It's cleaner that way, simpler. It gives us a clear villain. But what if they don't have a plan? What if they aren't following a playbook at all? What if the manipulator isn't a chess master, but just a child who can't stand to lose the game? Think about it. The core of all these tactics, the denial, the counterattacks, is a desperate avoidance of blame. It's a refusal to be wrong. For some people, the idea of being at fault is so terrifying, so catastrophic to their sense of self, that their mind will do anything to reject it. Their ego is like a very thin sheet of glass. The smallest crack could shatter the whole thing. So when they are confronted with evidence that they made a mistake, forgot something, or hurt someone, their brain doesn't process it as information. It processes it as an attack, a threat to their very existence, and it reacts with overwhelming, desperate self-defense. It will bend reality itself to survive. Their goal isn't your destruction, it's their own survival, and they will burn your reality to the ground to stay warm. They are trying to control you, not consciously. They are just trying to control a universe that constantly threatens to expose them as flawed. As human, they cannot live in a world where they are wrong, so they must create a world where you are crazy. Let's go back to the beginning. The keys on the counter, the partner with the concerned face. We saw that as a scene of quiet manipulation, but what if we look at it through this new lens? Maybe the partner isn't a villain. Maybe they are just a deeply insecure person. Maybe they are the one who is truly forgetful, and they left the keys on the counter. But admitting that small mistake, oh, oops, I moved them and forgot, feels to them like admitting they are a failure. It's a crack in the glass, so their mind instantly rewrites the story. A story where they are helpful and you are forgetful. They don't even know they're doing it. The new story feels more real to them than the truth because it's safer. And the manager in the office. Perhaps she isn't a corporate monster trying to sabotage her employee. Perhaps she is drowning in her own feelings of incompetence. She's terrified that her bosses will find out she's not as smart or organized as she seems. So she creates chaos. She changes deadlines, gives confusing instructions, and then blames others when things go wrong. Tom's perceived failure becomes a shield for her own real one. She isn't trying to break him. She is just using him as a sandbag to protect her own fragile position. The damage to him is the same, but the motive, this doesn't excuse the behavior. The damage is real, no matter the intent. The fog is just as blinding, but it explains why it can feel so confusing, so real. Because on some level, the gaslighter believes their own story. They have to. Their denial isn't just for you, it's for them. They are the first victims of their own delusion. And this is what makes it so powerful. It preys on the normal, everyday uncertainties of being human. Our memories are not perfect recordings. We do forget things, we do misunderstand people. We have all had moments where we weren't sure if we locked the door or turned off the stove. That tiny seed of normal self-doubt is the soil where the gaslighter plants their poison. They use the natural slipperiness of memory against you. You misremember one small detail, and they use it as proof that your entire mind is untrustworthy. You get emotional during an argument, and they use it as proof that you are hysterical and irrational. They find one crack in your own certainty and drive a wedge into it, splitting your reality in two. On one side is what you think happened. On the other is what they insist happened. And their side is always louder, more certain. And over time, the loud voice starts to sound like the true one. Some old thinkers talked about a shadow self, a part of us we hide away, the things we don't like about ourselves, the fear, the shame, the insecurity. Most of us learn to live with that shadow. We know it's there, but the gaslighter cannot. They project their shadow onto you. They are not forgetful, you are. They are not incompetent, you are. They are not out of control, you are. They are not out of control, you are. They make you carry the weight of everything they cannot stand about themselves. The damage from this doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow leak, a gradual poisoning. At first you fight back. You argue for your own memories. You defend your feelings. You hold on to your own version of events. But it's exhausting. It's like trying to build a sandcastle while the tide is coming in. Every time you build a wall of certainty, a wave of denial washes it away. Every time you state a fact, a wave of doubt undermines it. You can't win. An argument needs two people who agree on a shared reality. You don't have one. So, you start to give in, just on the small things at first. It's easier to agree that you left the keys on the counter than to have a fight. It's easier to accept that you misunderstood the deadline than to argue with your boss. It's just easier to keep the peace. But each time you do that, you give away a little piece of yourself. You learn that your perceptions are less important than their feelings. Your memories are less reliable than their denials. Your reality is negotiable. Over time, this changes who you are. The voice of self-doubt that started as a whisper becomes a constant hum in the back of your mind. You second-guess every decision. You replay conversations over and over, trying to remember the exact words used, terrified you'll get them wrong. You stop trusting your own instincts. That little gut feeling that tells you something is wrong, you learn to ignore it. You've been taught that it's just you, being too sensitive or overreacting. You become smaller, quieter. You stop telling stories about your day because you're afraid you'll remember the details incorrectly and be corrected. You apologize all the time for everything. You apologize for things you didn't do just to end the conversation. The real tragedy is not that you lose arguments, it is that you lose yourself. You become a guest in your own life. Your own mind becomes a foreign country, a place where you are no longer a citizen, a place where you don't speak the language. And you look to the gaslighter for the passport, for the translation, for the truth. You have been successfully, quietly erased. We learn to live with the confusion. We adapt. We even start to help them, correcting our own memories to fit their stories. It just becomes easier than fighting. A person can get used to anything, I suppose, even living in a fog. You forget what it was like to see clearly. You forget the warmth of the sun. You just learn the shapes in the mist. So think about the last time you apologized for something you weren't sure you did. Did you apologize to keep the peace, or because you were starting to believe their story over your own?